President Trump has thrown down the gauntlet this morning with Russia in response to a suspected chemical weapons attack blamed on the Syrian government. The president tweeted, quote, "Russia vows to shoot down any and all missiles fired at Syria. Get ready, Russia, because they will be coming. Nice and new and smart. You shouldn't be partners with a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it." So that's the tweet. We're joined now by Bill Faries, our national security team leader in Washington, and also Bloomberg's Andrew Barden in Berlin. Andrew, let me start with you because we've already had a response from Russia on this.
Well, Russia's been pretty clear. I mean, as you know, Russia's involvement in the Syrian war turned the tide in Assad's favor, and as that kind of shifts to a new phase now, Russia has been settling down. They've installed S-400 systems. It's a very heavily defended airspace, and Russia's saying, you know, any strike against our assets, against our troops, will be retaliated against. We saw that this is a very crowded battlefield. The U.S. in an accidental strike a few months ago killed 200 Russian mercenaries, and so the risk is very real. And Russia's warning is equally real. If you hit us, we will shoot your missiles down, and we will fire back at whatever fired the missiles.
Yeah, and Bill, what are the implications of a tit-for-tat approach to Syria when it comes to Russia and the US? Surely we're entering this dangerous game of one-upmanship here.
We are. It's a dangerous game of one-upsmanship, and it's also there's a heavy risk of escalation, given all the telegraphing of intentions that's going on with now, you know, President Trump, who criticized his predecessor for telegraphing when actions would take place in war zones. The president seems to be doing something very similar, essentially saying that missiles will be incoming sooner or later, and Russia needs to be prepared for that. We do have reports from some outlets in Syria now that Syrian air bases or military bases are being vacated as they try to prepare for what may be coming. We don't have any other evidence or reporting to suggest something is imminent, but the president's tweet is certainly a shot across the bow to Russia and to Syria's president.
Andrew, Trump's under pressure to hit harder, to take bigger risks. As we know, he took action a year ago. It seemingly didn't have a big impact. What's changed between last year and now?
Well, I'd say a lot has changed. So last year we had the chemical weapons attack. Trump fired 59 Tomahawk missiles. That was really directed at one base, and it took the base out, but it didn't do any lasting damage to it. And so it was very much kind of one and done. In this case, you know, having drawn those red lines, if the U.S. is going to go in again, it needs to inflict some sort of greater damage. And so the question is, what sort of assets will they go after? Will they hit? You know, the Iranians are there now. We have Turkish troops in there now. As I said earlier, Russia has set up air defense system, or will they go after Assad directly or Assad's regime, which would be a huge escalation from the Russian point of view. I think the Russians can tolerate these one-and-dones, but anything that goes beyond that would be a big change in kind of the geopolitical calculus in Syria.
Bill Faries in Washington, that brings up a good point. The president was criticized the last time for just striking once and then walking away. It sort of perhaps gave the leadership the idea that the president wasn't going to follow up with more. Does he have to follow up with more now if he makes a strike? And by the way, we don't know. Maybe a strike has already happened.
I think one of the differences this time around is that the president does seem to be trying to rally U.S. allies to either join in a strike or to coordinate a strike. So we believe, you know, he may be working with France and other European allies to see if there's more of a joint response, so that it doesn't look like just the U.S. retaliating, but it looks like more of an international attempt to rein in Assad and the use of chemical weapons.
Andrew, who would our allies be were we to strike Syria? Can we count on France, for example? What other discussions are taking place?
Well, as Bill said, definitely France is there. The UK is there. Saudi Arabian Prince Mohammed bin Salman was just in the United States. We know that this came up. Saudi Arabia's interests are aligned with Israel. They're aligned with the United States. They really want to go aggressively after Iran. And so there's a number of countries here that are seeing their interests align, that could get on board with some sort of coalition. The longer you take at it, the bigger your coalition will be. But at the same time, what's going on right now in Syria, Syrians will be taking all their values all their assets of value, moving them to Russian bases or parking them near Russians. So it's a bit of a race now. You want to kind of quickly get everybody on side, but at the same time, you want to act quickly. You've got this window to act after the chemical weapons attack. You don't want to let that drag on too long.